You've already hit the ceiling, and if you don't see it now, you won't see it until it's too late. Because ceilings don't feel like limits, they feel like progress. That's what makes them dangerous, because nothing forces you to change. You're still working, still improving, still getting better, still earning more. And that's exactly why you don't question it. Because nothing looks wrong, nothing feels broken. Everything still responds to effort. But something changed. The growth slowed. Not enough to panic, not enough to quit, but enough to matter. Enough to change your trajectory. This is how ceilings work. They don't stop you. They contain you. And most engineers don't realize they've reached one, because the system doesn't remove progress. It compresses it into a smaller range. You're still getting raises, still gaining experience, still taking on more responsibility, but your range doesn't change. And if your raises feel smaller over time, this is why. Because you're moving, but you're not expanding. You're progressing, but only inside a boundary. And once you're inside it, everything you do just reinforces it. Because the ceiling doesn't block effort, it redirects it into the same range. You work more, you improve more, you deliver more. But all of it happens inside the same limits. And that's the trap. Because effort still produces results, just not new ones. Because the longer you stay, the more normal it becomes. And once it feels normal, you stop questioning it. This is where most people get it wrong. They respond by doing more effort, more learning, more output, more consistency. But none of that breaks the ceiling, because ceilings are not caused by lack of skill. They are caused by where you're operating, and no amount of improvement changes that location. You can become exceptional inside a ceiling, and that's what makes it permanent. Because you get rewarded for staying inside it, not for leaving it. There is also a perception problem. When you're inside a ceiling, everything still feels valid. You're still valuable, still needed, still relevant. And that makes it harder to question, because nothing feels wrong. It just stops growing. There is also a comparison trap. You compare yourself to people in the same range, same roles, same layer, same trajectory, and everything looks consistent, which reinforces the illusion. Because everyone around you is hitting the same ceiling, at slightly different speeds, so it doesn't feel like a limit, it feels like normal. There is also a timing layer. The longer you stay inside a ceiling, the more your experience adapts to it. You become optimized for that range. You get better at operating within it, more efficient, more reliable, more consistent, but worse at leaving it. Because your confidence becomes tied to performing well inside the ceiling, not outside it. And that's what locks you in, because now your identity depends on it. You're no longer just working inside the ceiling, you belong to it, because leaving means stepping into uncertainty, into roles you're not fully prepared for, into environments you don't control, into expectations that are not clearly defined. And most people avoid that, so they stay, they improve, they optimize, they grow, but only inside the same boundary. There is also a compounding effect. Small limits don't stay small, they define your trajectory. Because once your growth slows, others move faster, and over time, that becomes separation, not because they're better, but because they broke out earlier, because they moved before the ceiling became part of their identity. This is where long-term income gets decided, not by how hard you work, but by whether you recognize the ceiling early enough. Because once you stay too long, your trajectory aligns with it. Your experience reinforces it. Your positioning reflects it. And changing direction becomes harder. This is why some engineers plateau without realizing it. They don't feel stuck. They feel stable. They feel consistent. They feel like they're doing everything right. But their income doesn't reflect what it should, because they're already inside a ceiling. This difference compounds over time, hundreds of thousands across a career, lost without realizing it, because everything still feels like progress. So the question is not, are you growing? The real question is, are you growing, or just becoming harder to remove from a limit? Most people choose the second, without realizing it, and by the time they do, they're too adapted to leave. If you understand how the system actually works, you don't just improve, you leave, before staying becomes permanent. If you want the full system behind this, it's in the description.